Hey, it's Andrew Downs. I'm proud to support Three Beards Media, and I would love to work with you. If you need merchandise for your company, organization, band, softball team, whatever, I can help. From name brand apparel to promotional items, large orders or small, online stores, and more, I can help your brand stand out. AKC Marketing is local, based in Johnston, and we are an employee-owned business, so our costs are low and our turnaround times are fast. But most importantly, we give you personal service to make sure you get exactly what you're looking for. Email me at andrew@akcmarketing.com or find me on social media and let's make some cool stuff together. Now sit back and enjoy this Three Beards Media podcast.
Red and gold on the edge of the sky, feel the rumble, hear the battle cry. Out in Ames where the storms ignite, we don't back down, we rise and fight. Jack Tri-State's name, yeah, it echoes strong. A story of honor still marches on. Through the rain, through the pain, through the fire we roar. 'Cause we were built to thrive in the eye of the storm. Feel the ground shake, hear the crowd roar. Cyclone power, can't take no more. Legends rise, this is our norm. We stand tall in the eye of the storm. There's a cyclone blowing on the outskirts tonight. Jack Trice shakes when the team takes flight. Buildings rocking, hear the magical. We rise together, we'll never fall. Feel the magic you can't deny. Marcus Stars are taking off straight to the sky. Brick, big play, Kirby making history. When the moment gets tough, that's a cyclone way. Through the trenches, through the lane, through the heat, through the rain. When the storm comes blowing, we embrace the fight. 'Cause the cyclones strike when the time is right. Feel the cyclones strike when the time is right.
All right, welcome back to The Side of the Storm, where we talk all things Cyclones. We are live from the AKC Marketing Studio with Andrew Downs and sponsored by Rebelton Distilling Company out of Osceola, Iowa, and Dan Douglas with Green Beret Realty. I'm Dave Larson here with my Storm Team partner and Cyclone great, the legend himself, Marcus Fizer. Marcus, good evening on this Selection Sunday.
Yeah, good evening, Dave. How you doing?
Well, I'm doing good, and this is kind of a special day for us. It's almost a little bit Christmas. It's a holiday, for us, the Cyclone fans, when we're able to see at least one team announce. And I know that I've got my lazy eye that I talked about the last show sort of centered on the women's selection to see where the women are going. So we're going to jump into really the focus today on the NCAA tournament. And we'll bring back our special segment, this quick sips and quick takes. There's been a number of football signings. I think we'll hold off on that one at least and just really focus on basketball for this one. Again, that women's selection show is going on right now for those of you who may be watching us simultaneously. We want to give a quick shout out to our partner in crime, Brent Curvey. His birthday was yesterday. So
Cumpleaños feliz.
Yeah, so he is off having a celebratory meal with his family, and we certainly want to wish him all the best. So, all right, first, I want to really cover the Iowa State angle before we head into just talking about the tournament in general. Obviously, that's why we're here, and we want to talk about the tournament and the seeding. Iowa State ends up with a 3 seed in the South region. But first, we've got some major player news that really came out just shortly after the selections were announced that's going to have a pretty big impact on this year's tournament. And that late news came from a TJ Otzelberger press conference. Taman Lipsey, signs are pointing in the positive direction that he's getting better and is expected to play. Again, the Cyclones playing on Friday, so have a little bit more time to rest up after last week's game. But even bigger news coming out of Ames, and now it's been broadcast quite extensively. And Keyshawn Gilbert is not available moving forward. And that the moving forward was a direct quote from Coach Otzelberger. And I found it interesting I believe Cyclone Fanatic had posted on Twitter a question from the Des Moines Register's Travis Hines, who had asked, does that mean regardless of how deep that the team goes into the tournament? And Coach TJ affirmed that is the case. So it feels like there's just more going on here than meets the eye. There was a posting that Chris Shipley forwarded on to us from Keyshawn that, no, there's nothing more than that, but it just feels awkward, particularly if he doesn't even travel with the team. So, kind of throwing a lot at you, my friend. How does this news impact the team and the tournament moving forward? And I found it very interesting that it was not announced until after the selections were made. And it almost feels like, in the prognosticators, I saw flip back and forth between CBS and ESPN that I sort of wonder if maybe that had a favorable impact waiting that it resulted in a 3 seed. We may have been dropped down to a 4 seed had the selection committee known that he wasn't going to play.
Yeah, that's something to really wonder about. I know early on they really wanted to find out and figure out if Cooper Cup, not Cooper Cup, what's his name? The guy from Duke, the kid from Duke, Cooper Flag.
Yeah.
If he was going to be available.
You got the Cooper right.
If he was going to be available or not. And you see they've announced twice that, Duke said that he's going to be available. So you have to feel like that may have had some kind of impact. Me personally, I would like to know, exactly what's going on more so than worrying about the seeding. Falling to a 4, being at a 3, is that really that much of a difference? It's not like a 2 or a 1, from a 3 or, being below that. So it's really, really strange that wording, in our group text. As soon as we saw it, we all jumped on the fact, going forward was something that was, and then I hopped on X or Twitter or whatever, listened to the press conference and everything. And I'm still just not, convinced about exactly what's going on. Is it concerning? Absolutely, because of the dynamic of what Keyshawn is to the team, what he's been to the program since he arrived, and especially this year. And it's something that we got to think about how it's going to impact the team going forward.
Well, you make a great point about impact. You look at that game in the Big 12 tournament against BYU. For crying out loud, we scored 92 points and still lost. And you can't help but think that his impact in that game defensively, obviously offensively, but defensively too, could have resulted in maybe a different outcome against BYU. Although I'm going to give BYU credit. They're a really good team. They shot it exceptionally well. I mean, when you shoot 50% from 3 and they put up 36, 38 shots from 3 and made half, they're a good team.
Yeah. I saw something earlier on Facebook where this one guy, I swear he's stalking LeBron James, but he's I mean, we're all in this basketball group and he talks about nothing but LeBron every single day. Bad things, bad things, bad things. Nothing about sports. So he put up this thing about Reeves point total going higher since LeBron has been out. And he's talking about LeBron is holding the young guys back. Like, I get that from a small standpoint, but Reeves' record since LeBron has been out is 3-4. He got a better record with him. So you may score more points, but you may lose the ball game. So what are we looking at? The impact that Keyshawn is to the team defensively. We may have had less points, but as long as we win the game, beat BYU and possibly advance on and win the Big 12 tournament, that's something more important than someone else having more points or weak scoring points. So the dynamic of thinking about scoring more points, us scoring more points, a player scoring more points or whatever, it changes everything, because if you don't have the defensive presence to be able to stop, I know everybody talk about scoring points, but defense wins games. We know that. If you score 1 point and they have 0, who wins the game? So you got to think about it from that aspect, and thinking about how we're going to fare without them is something that is definitely on my mind.
Well, and even on our text chain, that's been sort of a discussion point for all of us is, what does that impact have? Is it more important in the NCAA tournament, defense or offense? Because Keyshawn actually provides both. I think one would argue that defensively, he's been missed. We haven't seen as much turnovers offensively, though. And I would argue in the NCAA tournament, you just can't turn the ball over. Maybe in that first round game, maybe the second, but certainly not beyond that. So what's what's that impact of his loss, both on the offensive side and defensive side? And I want to point out too, you're not going to get a lot offensively from Cade Kelderman. I mean, that's known now, so we know that's going to have a significant impact.
Well, like you said, the first couple rounds are always tricky. You can get away with more those first couple rounds not playing well. It's kind of the known or the norm that they want to see good games early on. So you're going to have some surprises, and you're going to see some really, really close games. Because it's a ton of games those first couple rounds. My goodness, there's so many games. All you see is the scores going across the top. So, these will be the rounds that we find out, just how tough the team is. But at the same time, these are the rounds that you can run into some surprises. I thought we would never see a 16 seed beat a 1, and we've had that. For a long time, 15 seeds hadn't beat a 2, and unfortunately, we're on that list. So it's kind of tough, it's kind of scary to see or to think about it. But these are the times that programs are made for, and hopefully we can fare pretty well.
So without Keyshawn, that's a known factor now. Is this something that you think that the team has been preparing for? That he obviously sat out last week, and you called it. We talked about the injury to Taman that had come up late in their first game, and you called it. You said, "Hey, pull both guys. Don't play either one in that next game against BYU." TJ, it's like he listened to you and said, "Okay, I'm going to do that." So, what's that impact going to have moving forward in terms of who needs to now step up and doggone against BYU? Curtis Jones just about pulled what you had said.
Yeah.
Someone's got to do. Someone's got to shoot 20 shots and just be lights out. And Curtis really was lights out.
Yeah, he played really well. Milan is going to have to really, really step it up a lot. Offensively, we're going to have to score the ball. Getting in that rhythm of scoring the ball to advance. Take some chances, do the things that you probably necessarily wouldn't do normally in the Big 12, but I mean, you're going to be facing a team. Even TJ said he don't know much about Lipscomb, so we don't know exactly what we're going to get. I remember, Central Connecticut was our first pool, and I mean, we had absolutely nothing on them. And when we went on the first half, it was kind of this figuring things out type thing. It was kind of scary a little bit in the beginning, but once you buckle down and understand what you are, who you are, what the program is, we tend to fare pretty well. So, I'm looking forward to hopefully Taman, is a whole lot better. Hopefully that thumb is a whole lot better than what it's been, going on throughout the year. And then, we see what happens. It's kind of scary, but, at the same time, I was hoping Keyshawn's going to be back. That's the thing. We've talked in the group chat. We don't know what the injury is. We don't know what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
I just don't like that, but,
Well, at the same token, it feels like maybe the coaching staff has had 7 to 10 days to really put in a game plan moving forward, and the team likely knows and has known what they have and are going to be ready. I think that's one of the concerns, is that you have a player gets injured even 2 days before your first game, and you're scrambling to come up with hey, here's how we're going to look as a team. And at least having that forewarning, I think, will probably help out this team considerably.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just exciting times without a doubt. You never know what the draw is going to be. Someone is going to always have a more favorable draw. Some are not going to have a more favorable draw. But a lot of people didn't think Ohio State was going to win the national championship, and they pulled that one off.
That's right.
It is what it is.
It was just announced. I'm on a different text chain, but looks like we play 14 seed Lipscomb at 12:30 Central on Friday.
12.
A little bit of forewarning. I actually had planned to take the day off, so that's good for me. I'm still trying to decide if I looked at my son tonight when it was announced Milwaukee. That's a location that a lot of Cyclone fans, it's very familiar. It's a fairly good drive to get up there. So it's not like having to drive all the way to Seattle or Florida or some insane place like that. So I would expect to see a lot of fans up there, although I think that I saw that Illinois is also going to be up there. So trying to get tickets could be a little bit of a challenge for a lot of us if you're thinking. So the scalpers are probably going to be very happy that both Iowa State and Illinois are up there. They're going to make a lot of money next weekend.
Yeah.
So,
what city is that in?
In Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
It's in Milwaukee.
Yeah. And I found that interesting that Wisconsin, of all teams, they did not. I think they're in Denver. So we beat out the Badgers for that spot in Wisconsin. Again, that Keyshawn injury and not announcing it or not announcing that he's not going to play until after the selection may have really done this team a lot of wonders, because it's going to have an impact if you've got a lot more fans following you than fewer. Because I'm going to assume that we would have had a lot more of a contingency group that will say, hey, I'll take Friday off. I'll just scoot up there. And now with the 12:30 tip, you could get up early in the morning and still make it, and maybe try to snag a hotel room in Milwaukee or one of the suburbs. Or I'm blessed enough to have an aunt that lives up there, so who knows?
I wonder if there's something that they will investigate. You don't think so? I mean,
hey, it is what it is, right?
I say it is what it is, but
we'll talk some investigation here in a bit. But you watch a lot of ball. Have you seen Lipscomb play this year? I'll be honest, I know nothing about them.
No, I don't even know where they're from.
Aren't they from like Nashville? Or I was talking to my son about this. We thought we knew somebody that played down there at one time, and when I was on a work trip, I thought that I walked by. Let's see here, Nashville. They are in Nashville.
It's a private Christian university. Yeah, in Nashville, Tennessee. Yeah, I have no idea anything about them.
So if you're listening in or watching tonight, wondering for some intel on Lipscomb, sorry, we got nothing for you.
Zero.
It's a private Bible school in Nashville, Tennessee. Very small, as I recall from seeing them walking by the sidewalk. So I found it interesting. The winner would likely face number 6 or a 6 seed Ole Miss. Thoughts on a matchup against Ole Miss?
I thought about that when I saw them in the bracket. It's kind of scary, they've been playing well. I've seen them play a couple of times this year.
Yeah, and Ole Miss, they're in the SEC, one of 14 teams, a record 14 teams from the SEC, from one conference making it to the NCAA tournament.
I think they pushed that a little bit. I tell my wife all the time, in sports, these commentators, NBA and all that different stuff, they'll put you in the All-Star game. They'll put your contract. He's going to sign a $100 million contract. All of that, so I've been hearing, the SEC going to get 13 teams in this year since, the beginning of February. And I said it's going to line up to be that way no matter what. And here we are, you say 14. So,
well, you're going to get 14 when you have 50 schools in your conference, for crying out loud. Gee whiz.
Right. But, there's still some other stronger conferences that could have slipped some teams in there. I missed it. Did Texas make it?
Texas did make it. In fact, they, it's interesting that some of these blue blood schools, Texas and North Carolina, I never thought I would see the day that North Carolina would be in a play-in game. Did you?
No. And that's the best place.
We call it a play-in game. The committee, I'm sure, says, "Oh, it's round one."
That's the best place that they could put them. Hearing that they was 1-7 and quad one wins. They're probably a better team than what they've been all year, and that's the scary thing for a team like that. Like that's one of those teams that will come from way back from there and what you guys been doing all year long, but. I mean, it is what it is. We're dealing with the NILs and collectives where, a lot of smaller schools are getting players in, and, now they're competing at a higher level. Everyone doesn't want to go to North Carolina, Duke, and Kentucky, and all those type schools out of high school anymore, or in the transfer portal. They're broadening their horizons, and we got a lot of better competition.
Yeah, they play North Carolina plays San Diego State in their playing game. Texas plays Xavier in their playing game. So Texas Xavier are both 11 seeds, as well as San Diego State and North Carolina.
I think Texas will lose that one.
Interesting.
The Sean, what's his name? The coach, Sean. Is it Sean Miller? The coach that was at Arizona.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
I think you are correct on that.
yeah. He had some tough teams up there in Xavier.
So we talked about investigations, and I think that over the years we've seen the selection committee having a sense of history and a little bit of a sense of irony. Again, we exchange through the text chain, but if you look at the Sweet 16 matchup, this is the 25th anniversary of your team playing against Michigan State in that infamous Elite Eight game. But if we can forward our minds to the following weekend, Sweet 16 game in Atlanta,
I will be there.
It would be Michigan State against Iowa State.
I will be there. Definitely
You will be there.
If that happens, I will be there.
I would love to bring the ghosts of your team out, and I'd love to see all you guys showing up for that game.
I will be there if that happens. I think Michigan State is going to lose before then.
Really?
Yes. But I will be there absolutely if that happens. I can be putting my picks out here. I'm definitely doing a bracket this year. Who put that up there? That's small.
Yeah, I'm sorry. If you expand your view, you could probably see it a little bit.
I did.
Better. So,
Where we
Michigan State is in the. Let's see. I need to see which bracket. This is on the fly
Midwest
here. But Michigan State has been playing pretty well to date. So their first game is against 15 seed Bryant. And then they would play the winner of Marquette and New Mexico. Marquette is led by Shaka Smart. So that could be an intriguing matchup. Marquette against Tom Izzo and the Michigan State Spartans.
Marquette, Bryant. Yeah.
So you think that's where they lose?
That Marquette is a tough team. Shaka always have tough teams and playing well.
And don't you have to look at where these games are played too? You get these different seedings, and sometimes you get these sneaky teams that are able to make it through because of their crowds and being able to. And that's where I think that the committee has done us some favors by having us in Milwaukee, because we get a chance to bring our fan base up there, and that could help propel this team into the Sweet 16. Now, I'm not suggesting that we are going to make it to the Sweet 16, but I think that's very helpful to have us in Milwaukee rather than someplace. Oh, and the women, it was just announced they are in a play-in game as an 11 seed against Princeton, with the winner facing Michigan. That's on the women's side.
Princeton.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So we'll have to do some research on the women. So that was just announced. I just saw it come across my screen here.
Backdoor cut.
Well, that's women. I'm not familiar with the women's game, but
I bet
think
they do the same thing.
Well, and I'm pounding it down low to Audie Crooks just all day long. I think the women, those are two winnable games for the women against Princeton and Michigan. And that game would be in Indiana. So that's probably equal driving distance for both teams, for Michigan and Iowa State, assuming Iowa State makes it that far. Oh, but then you get the second round game against Notre Dame. So that would be a tough matchup. Probably not any tougher than against Stanford, though, in their own gym.
Yeah, that was one for the ages too. That was a really really good game.
All right, so you're promising you will be there in Atlanta if Iowa State faces off against Michigan State in the round of 16. Thing about
Yep.
Michigan State, I don't know from what I've seen, they don't shoot it exceptionally well from the outside, but they're a really good defensive team, and they won the Big Ten regular season championship. So you know that they're going to come to play, and you know there's that little bit of additional sense of irony. So Tom Izzo, I believe, was the coach when you were playing against Michigan State, correct?
Yep. The only national championship he has supposed to be mine. Yeah,
Well,
but
and I don't want you to feel any older, but there's a freshman by the name of Jason Richardson on that team. His
Ve-
son now
Vegas
plays for
kid,
Michigan State. Yeah.
Vegas kid. He's been out here in Vegas for the last 3 years, so got another Vegas kid that's playing well in the tournament. But yeah. I mean, I just seen Jace. He got a younger brother too that I wonder where he's going to be going. But I've seen him and Jason out here, the last 3 or 4 years.
Well, so we talked a lot about Iowa State, and you hate to go too far into the tournament just because there's a lot of unknowns, right? And that's one of the great things about March Madness is the opportunity to see some of these games and the dedication and really seeing each game in and of itself rather than during a regular season weeknight. It's tough to catch all these games going on. As we get closer to the conference tournaments, you can sort of narrow down and watch some teams that maybe you haven't seen for a while, but you do miss out on a lot of those teams. Just as you see the brackets that is laid out, are there any sneaky games in the tournament that you see or teams that you think keep your eye on a team such as?
Um, I'm looking at this North Carolina San Diego game and thinking, like I said, North Carolina could be one of those teams that beat San Diego State and Ole Miss. One of those
Wow.
crazy things you look up and it's like, oh wow, we're facing North Carolina. So that's definitely one of those teams. Creighton is a team that's been played a lot better early on in the year than what they've been of late.
I'm
Well,
glad
one
you
of,
referenced them. I saw that one come up. I was looking at my screen. I grabbed a bite to eat with my daughter, and I looked at my phone, and I thought, "Wow, Louisville and Creighton in Lexington. That'll be a great game."
yeah, Creighton should have been a whole lot better. Another one of the Vegas kids, one of the kids that I coached here in high school with Marcus Jr., Pop Isaacs, ended up getting hurt early on in the season, so he redshirted. So they would have had a lot more firepower, probably a better season, probably a better year if he was playing. He was at Texas Tech last year, and he transferred to Creighton. So I was looking forward to them being a whole lot better, but he had the injury, so he went down. But they fared pretty well, um, you know, for the last couple games going into the tournament. On that side of the bracket, that's what I'm typically looking at. When you get on the other side, when you see teams, weird teams like Liberty and things like that, like it's like where do these teams come from? And oh shit, they beat Oregon. Like, okay, now my bracket is busted because I had Oregon beating them. Those are the type teams that you can never think about. McNeese State sitting at 27-6. They play against Clemson. Clemson probably don't know where McNeese State is. A lot of country boys from Louisiana that's hungry in the tournament. That Joe Dumars went to McNeese State. I had a lot of guys that I grew up with in Louisiana and came up behind me went to McNeese. So they got some really, really good players that play extremely well. So those are the type teams that you never know, but it can definitely happen.
So we've got a lot of people that are watching us on the live feed. Feel free to drop any comments and we can try to answer those. Being in the Midwest here and in central Iowa, I think a game that has come up that a lot of us are interested in is Drake. Drake Bulldogs won the Missouri Valley regular season, ended up 30-3, and they brought up a lot of guys from Division II, and just an incredible season for them. They lost everybody, and they're back in the tournament. They're facing off in Wichita, so a real brief drive for them as well. For you talk about the fan base and travel, play a very slow it down tempo, defensive oriented game. They play a fairly high paced game against Missouri. Any thoughts on that game?
This should be entertaining. I think Missouri's is a little bit stronger than Drake. I think it's going to go down to the wire in the second half. It's going to be one of those close ones, but I think Missouri is going to pull through on that one.
Well, I'm going to be interested in watching that one as well, because we've talked a lot about defense this time of year, but at some point you got too much offense. You can have a lot of defense. All you're going to do is bring the score down, but the offense is going to end up winning. So I'll be curious about that one.
In that region or in that bracket, man, St. John's, like Coach Pitino is just wow. What he's done with that program, the best season they've had in over 25 years. I think Ron Artest, was his last team that was there, which was 25, 26 years ago, or even more. They're playing extremely well. They can really go far in this bracket.
Well, they potentially could go up against a Kansas team. I mean, and I don't know. You talk again about a sense of irony. You look at St. John's. I'm going to assume that they're going to beat Omaha. But you look at Kansas against Arkansas, and remember that's an Arkansas team now coached by John Calipari. Mm-hmm. Now that would be another interesting matchup if you see Calipari against Pitino coaching for two different teams, both former Kentucky coaches, facing off against one another. Again, this committee does an incredible job at looking at some of these things, whether it's intentional or not.
That's intentional. I think that's intentional. Kansas should be the better team than Arkansas, but Coach Calipari really make those guys play well. Kansas have been really iffy the last couple of weeks. Travis Rutherford, we've been talking, a couple of days ago back and forth on Instagram, just talking about the teams and things like that. And I asked him, what he thought, was going on. And, he gave me his input, some different things or whatever. It's just a team we hadn't seen at Kansas, over the recent years. So we'll see what happens, once the tournament starts. But that'll be interesting to see, Pitino against Calipari for sure.
Yeah, you're right. That first round game for Kansas and Arkansas, I think that's one of the marquee games in the first round. Louisville, Creighton, we talked about. I see that as being a good game. Take another look at this game, Houston. So they're in Wichita. They're the number one seed in the Midwest region. Possible round 32 game against, I think, two teams that could beat them, but they themselves will be a great first-round matchup. Gonzaga against Georgia, and they shared it during the CBS broadcast that Georgia has beaten both Florida, Kentucky, and St. John's. So that should be an intriguing first-round matchup, much less an intriguing second-round matchup against Houston.
Georgia is going to win that game.
Against Gonzaga or against Houston?
Yes, against Gonzaga.
Okay.
Georgia's going to win it. I don't trust Gonzaga. I mean, I've had kids from here, play for Gonzaga that, I coached against and coached with and all that different stuff. Julius Strawther and, forget the kid off the top of my head that's in it. He's in the NBA too. But they have some of the best teams and just, man, not to take anything away from Coach Few, but he been getting a lot of passes for the teams he's had that hadn't done it yet. So I think Georgia's stronger. I think Georgia is going to beat that game. I'm definitely putting that down on my bracket.
Okay. Big 12 teams. So we've got 7 in the big that are representing the Big 12. They're really spread out, although I think we're very East heavy. Iowa State, of course, is the 3 seed in the South. We mentioned before about Houston being the number 1 seed and deservedly so in the Midwest.
Mm-hmm.
Texas Tech is another 3 seed in the West. Arizona, a 4 seed in the East. And boy, they really came on strong. They played really well down the stretch, and they sort of puttered out a little. They were hot, and then they puttered out towards the latter half of the Big 12 season, and then there's last couple of games and in the tournament played really well, losing to Houston in the championship game, which I don't know if you saw some of the comments of people on Twitter about just when Iowa State, Kansas were all gone. There was like no teams left that were local that could stay around and drink beer, and that wasn't going to happen with any BYU fans. BYU's a 6 seed in the East, and I looked at the brackets for them out in the East. I would not be surprised to see BYU in the Elite 8 against Alabama.
They're in the East?
Yeah, I thought some of their matchups will look pretty darn good. See if I can pull it up here. They play VCU in the first round, and then the winner of Wisconsin, Montana. You talk about trusting teams. I don't know that I trust Wisconsin.
Yeah.
BYU is one of those teams we've seen a couple of times now. They can shoot it. They can flat out shoot it. And when they're on,
rebound well too.
you're not going to beat them. And I just don't know that Wisconsin would have the firepower. Granted, I'm not a huge Big Ten guy where I see a lot of their basketball, but I could see BYU coming out of there, going into the Sweet 16, and then facing off. I guess that would be the Alabama game there in the Sweet 16. So I could see them beating Alabama to get to the Elite 8.
Yeah, I see St. Mary's winning over Vanderbilt. They got some really, really tough and skilled guards. Alabama beating Robert Morris, which should be an easy one, and then Alabama should advance over St. Mary's. So yeah, that definitely that's a pretty exciting bracket for sure to start it off. There's a couple ones that's kind of boring. I know, but there's a couple brackets like that come with some firepower. So, like you said, the committee know what they're doing.
Also in the East is number 9 seed Baylor. Back to the West is that 7 seed Kansas. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think BYU, they could be the team that goes the furthest in the tournament. Now, I'm not knocking Houston, but that second round game against Gonzaga, Georgia, while I would think that Houston, they're so tough. They're so good. Yeah. That's an intriguing matchup in that second game. And when you have less turnaround time to prepare for a team, and you're the guy that's played in these tournaments, so correct me if I'm wrong, but you rely more on your athleticism and your talent and what you've done throughout the year versus preparation on how to defeat a certain style. I think Georgia's got a lot of athletes that could compete against Houston.
At this time you're really not doing any kind of practice, and I remember the practices were pretty much like shoot arounds for the most part. I mean, the time that you get in and you play, then you travel back home, and I mean, you probably get some nice, okay practices at the beginning of the week. But I mean, you're right back out. That if you advance, you're right back out. That Wednesday or that Thursday, depending on when you play. I'm a big fan of Coach Sampson. I mean, I see them going farther. I see them beating, Georgia if they do advance that far. When you take away the things that when you play defense, those guys always play defense. He always going to have them playing hard. The big fella Roberts is going to be back, ready to rock. I can see, Houston, putting that product out on the floor that they normally do, and they got the firepower to shoot it from deep. Athleticism is okay. It's a great thing when you looking for highlights and all of that and run up and down the floor. But if we stop fast break points, then we take the athleticism out of the game, and we're slowing it down to, be a dogfight, and that's going to be one of those games.
Yeah, I think if Houston gets past that second round game, they're going right to the Elite Eight.
Oh,
that would be a heck of a matchup. Just forecasting against Tennessee, I think that would be a fantastic game. Tennessee, a team that they were ranked number 1 for 6-7 weeks of the season. So I think that'd be a really good game coming out for the right to represent the Midwest and region in the Final Four.
Wow, yeah. At that point, they get past at that point. I can see them like taking it all. Like they're such a strong team. Like early on, I felt like we were a better team. We started having some injuries. Things started to be kind of wonky there. Then to an extent, we were trying to right the ship, get things back in line. At that point, there's no reason in chasing number 1, number 2, number 3 seeds and all that in the conference tournament. You just get to the tournament, advance on, and get to this point. Well, man, those guys are tough. They've gotten healthy. Emmanuel Sharp, has gotten healthy. The Big 12 tournament MVP. And man, those guys are dangerous. You got Cryer that has a ton of experience. And they play extremely hard. They play well. And, like I said, facing those Coach Sampson teams over the years, I just know how gritty and grimy they can be on the floor.
All right, I want to take a quick timeout. We want to hear from our sponsors, and then I want to come back on the other side and talk a little bit more about the tournament and some experiences and preferences that you have, both as a player and as a coach.
Deserve.
Making great tasting bourbon requires the perfect combination of ingredients, conditions, and time. The longer it rests, the better it tastes. Revelton Distillery's new single barrel bourbon is made from 80% corn, sourced 100% from Iowa farmers. And unlike mass-produced bourbons, each barrel of Revelton's single barrel bourbon is unique, proofed on when it tastes best. As they like to say, it'll be ready when it's ready. And to ensure the highest standards of quality and flavor, owners Rob and Christy Taylor oversee the production and bottling. Every single barrel. Iowa born, Iowa aged, Iowa bottled. Try the new single barrel bourbon from Iowa's own Revelton Distillery. ReveltonDistillery.com. When energy meets precision, anything is possible.
I'm Carter Hawley, the Chief Energy Officer of the Iowa State Cyclones. I'm full of energy on and off the court, but nothing gives me more energy than helping families find their dream home. And that's where Green Beret Realty comes in. They're more than just realtors. They're a team dedicated to getting things right for you and your family, just like we get it right on the court. Sometimes it takes a team to get the call right. And when you're buying a home, you want a team that makes all the right calls. That is Green Beret Realty. And here's the best part. When you buy or sell a home through Dan at Green Beret Realty and mention this ad, he'll make a donation to the We Will Collective, helping student athletes like me thrive on and off the court.
Green Beret Realty, because getting the call right means everything.
All right, we're back with this special edition of In the Side of the Storm, talking a lot of NCAA basketball. So Marcus, our new segment, or we've now called it our new segment, Quick Sips and Quick Takes, Quick Takes, our Revelton Distilling segment. As a player for you, would you rather play a distance away from campus, or would you rather be closer to home? Did that matter to you as a player?
Yeah.
Or do you, Brent talked a little bit about he wanted to be like when you're playing an away game, like his focus was just on that game and there's no distraction. So for you, would you rather play far away or close by?
Well, for the fan base, I'd rather play close by. I never really had any kind of distractions or anything like that while playing. And, like we spoke before, Brent touched on the fact of how, they used to go to the hotels. We tried to do that one time, and I got absolutely no sleep. And I told Coach Stacy, I can't do this, man. Like we we were staying, whatever what's the hotel everyone stays in there when they come to the big hotel? This is the Hilton. There's some places right across the street from there. Well, my apartment was the next block behind all those
in
apartments.
Ames?
Yeah, in Ames. So I think I lived in the West X or something like
Gateway?
that. The Gateway it was some new hotels that was built across the street, and they had just opened up, and he wanted to, take us to those and get some rest. And my apartment was literally walking distance from there. I mean, I got absolutely no sleep at all. Absolutely no sleep. I forgot who we played. But, for me, like being in my own abode and the things that I do to, relax myself and wind down is what I prefer more than anything. So it really don't matter. I would prefer to be close for the fans, traveling and all of that. On the road, I have to battle trying to get sleep regardless. I hate hotels. I hate living out of suitcases. To this day, I hate traveling and living in hotels and stuff like that. So, when we go out of town to see Marcus Jr., I'm trying to find an Airbnb. Sometimes those not available because I just hate hotels. But, to each his own. For me, like I said, for the fans, I'd rather be close.
Okay. White jersey or Cardinal jersey? Of course, you didn't have the opportunity to wear black. Shame on you, but white or Cardinal?
You mean for me or for them on the road?
For
them,
you.
for me, white.
Which did you rather play in?
White. I prefer the white.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you rather play in a fun city or maybe not so fun? Like, no disrespect to Dayton, but I don't really think of Dayton, Ohio as being a fun place to visit.
That really didn't matter. I didn't do much, as I think about now, try to recall and remember a lot of things like back then. Like a lot of cities I don't know a lot about, even in the NBA, because I just didn't do anything when I, was on the road. Trying to get rest, trying to get the proper nutrition, preparing for the next day. You got time to do all the fun stuff in the off season. So, I was thinking the other day, like, man, I played in Manhattan, Kansas against Kansas State a few times, and I can tell you what the outside of the hotel looked like. Yeah, it's just, just something that I never got into. And this was back in the day where, it wasn't no social media and, people weren't coming around. We didn't have NIL money, so nobody driving cars and nothing like that. So it really didn't matter to me. Give me the hotel, nice bed, get my rest, go kick ass, and get on the plane and go home.
So what's that week like? So the Cyclones again play 12:30 on Friday. Imagine getting in Thursday at some point and shoot around Thursday late afternoon, evening. What's a typical schedule? And I know it probably varies by team and by program, but what was it like for you the day before, the day of, the day after?
It was a little easier before the first game because Coach Stacy didn't fly. So he would always drive ahead of us. So we knew that last practice before us leaving was going to be, an easier practice. Coach Perry pretty much took it light on us and, get on the plane, fly there, probably the day before, go through a little walkthrough somewhere in the hotel where they've taped down on the ground like it's a lane and half court and stuff like that. And yes, they do this.
So like in a banquet room or something.
Like in a banquet room.
You have a little mini practice in the banquet room.
Through the NBA, they do the exact same thing. Get sports tape and tape it on the ground, and like we would leave out and come in, and the next team would use the same tape. So that type thing, whatever, and just lay down and rest, and just try to focus on those teams. During this time for me, it was just like I said, I saw the national championship trophy, and my mind was just so focused on that. Like, that's probably where the high blood pressure in my life began, because I was just so stressed and so focused on winning. That's the only thing that I could think of.
So back in 2000, you guys were probably playing the video games of Nintendo or Super Nintendo. Were you guys?
No, we were playing.
Rooms?
It was PlayStation. It was PlayStation.
Right.
Like either the first one or the second one or whatever. And actually, I got in 2 from the Big 12 tournament, but hadn't even opened them. Like even during that time, I wasn't even playing video games. Like it's just nothing but the focus, watching TV, watching what was going on, the other games, and getting ready, trying to get the most rest as you can, and getting ready for your game, and going from there.
So, team, you guys aren't just hanging out in one another's rooms. You guys are just somewhat in your own rooms, chilling, doing personal things.
Just pretty much chilling. Thomas Watkins was my roommate. We just was, chilling at the time, just preparing for the games. We were in Minnesota the first round, and so there was a little mall across the street from the hotel, and so we would walk across the street, get something to eat, go to a couple of stores or whatever. But it was right back to the hotel, right back across the street, and just chilling out. I had a lot of family that drove down from Detroit that I didn't see a lot of them. Like I had the concierge and the people up front to tell them, at this point I just can't be disturbed. After the game, it was a little bit different. We advanced after the first round, so we stayed there, able to hang out with family a little bit from there. But that's one day, then you off, and then you play the next day after that. So pretty much the same thing. Just trying not to break that focus. It was a ton of people. We were in Minneapolis. It was a ton of people from Iowa State and the surrounding areas, and including my family. It was just so many people, and I just couldn't get lost. I couldn't allow my legs to not be there.
So your family's all excited to see you, but they don't get to see Marcus.
It was, he called up to the room and said, you got some family here. I was like, I ain't got no family in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I was like, I think you got the wrong room. And the guy said, man, it's about 200 Pfizers down here in the hotel room. I said, downstairs in the library. I said, you got to be kidding me. And I could just hear so much noise, and I, went downstairs, and there was so many people everywhere. So many people everywhere, cousins and aunts that I hadn't seen in years since I had been in college. And, visited with them a little bit, but then I got right back to the room, lay down and get my rest, and saw them after the game. But at that point, I couldn't hang out like that.
So as a fan now, the NCAA is on multiple stations at once between CBS, the TNT, TBS. I'm probably missing a few. True TV, I think, is the other. Do you like watching the tournament a single game at a time, or do you like it in what we've now become familiar with thanks to YouTube TV, like a quad box or something like that? What's your preference as a fan to watch these tournament games today?
Well, we have Hulu here, and I just signed up for Fubo TV as well because I see they got more games on those. So I'm running 2 services right now at this moment.
Okay.
The Fubo has a split screen where you can see, 2 games at one time. I'm not crazy about the quad because it makes them too small. You just gotta, peek up at the top, see what the scores are. Find the best game that's rolling. You always want to get those alerts about, if it's a close upset alert or whatever, you can switch over to, or they switch over to. So, the split 2 different games is what I do at the most now. Like throughout going to the tournament of here now, the last couple of weeks, I've been watching a lot of men games and women games that's been split. So, hopefully, that works out for me.
Could you imagine having a quad box environment with the basketball courts like the Big 12 tournament court on 4 screens going on at once? Would that be a mind blown or what?
It is. It is. And it gets a little overwhelming, and that's why I don't like doing it too much. Like I just, I like to see much of the action in the biggest state of possible. I've been, like I said, I've been watching the split screen, and I'm not too crazy about that, but that allows me to, at least I can get the remote and I can switch, from one to the other, really quick to change the audio. With the quad screen, is like, it's doing too much. And like I said, it makes the TV too small.
Fair enough. I should probably go back. You remember I don't know if you heard, but you made reference about hotels and accommodations when you're traveling like that. Did you see that the Big Ten had put Northwestern for the Big Ten tournament in a hotel without air conditioning?
Purposely, or it just happened to happen?
It just happened that way, apparently.
I think that just happened to happen. That's unfortunate, without a doubt. But I think that's a coincidence. They probably got their money back from that.
Have you what's the worst hotel accommodations that you remember? And obviously that it may have been domestic, it may have been overseas.
No, overseas is quite a few bad ones. But I was a player to which I can negotiate different things in my contract, like having, a suite or my own room. So those were typically better rooms than anything else. But in the United States, I think it's the Pfister Hotel in Milwaukee. That old hotel, that or the Plaza. The Plaza was terrible in New York, and teams love staying there. The history of the Plaza, that hotel was terrible. Really, really terrible. Like had the old, the old like key locks that you lock the door, or it looks like the key comes out, and it's the old school key, but it's not. It don't come out. Like it's just the hotel is terrible. So probably those two. The Pfister in Milwaukee is they say it's haunted. So yeah, that's
one of my favorite hotels. My family hates me for it, and I've stayed there subsequently since, just because I love the nostalgia. Is the Congress Hotel in downtown Chicago?
That's an old one.
Yeah, that's an old one. I mean, back in the day, I think Franklin Roosevelt used to stay there, and so I ran the Chicago Marathon down there one year and thought, I think I'd like to stay there. And I'm sure I got a Groupon for it, because it's downtown Chicago for a marathon is exceptionally expensive. I mean, they jack up those prices every night, and I'm trying to go on the cheap. And a buddy who I used to stay with when I was out there for a marathon moved. And so I thought, well, I'll check out the Congress, a lot of history to it. And I didn't tell them that it was haunted, potentially haunted. And my daughter was real little at the time. And we got off the hotel elevator to walk down the hallway, and you could feel it. It goes really cold and then warm again. And she goes, "Did you feel that?" I go, "Yeah, it was kind of interesting." I did not say anything to them until after we left the hotel. Oh yeah, by the way, the Congress Hotel is haunted.
That's kind of like what happened with me after I left Chicago and I played in Milwaukee. The Bucks put me up in a hotel and everything like that, and it was the same way. Like it was in the Pfister, and someone, after a couple weeks of staying there, it was like, man, that hotel is haunted, and it was kind of like some weird stuff going. Man, that next day I left and found an apartment. Now I was staying in my house in Chicago, still in Northbrook, because this was 45 miles of a drive.
That's not too bad.
No traffic. Yeah, it's just not bad to drive at all. But, I have to practice sometimes, whatever, or after the game, once it snowed, to have a place there. I was using the hotel for the same reasoning. But once I heard that, I was like, yeah, I figured there was something weird going on here. That next day after practice, I rolled down a row of apartments, and I saw these people say, "We got a 2-bedroom." I said, "I'll take it."
I'll take it.
Yeah.
All right. My last quick take is, do you cheer for the favorite or do you cheer for the underdog?
Definitely the underdog. We felt like we should have been the number 1 seed my last year, so we weren't the number 1 seed, the number 2 seed, so we're the underdog. So I always go for the underdog.
All right.
Unless it's the Cyclones.
Great answer on that one, Marcus. One other question. 512 is sort of the infamous breaking point of there's been upsets over the years that genuinely you take a closer look at those 512s for whatever reason. Are you more of a 5 guy or are you more of a 12 guy?
More of the 12, because I think the people who get in at 12 typically are better teams than what people have seen. They have that chip on their shoulder, and they come out and play extremely hard, extremely well, and they have a lot of upsets for that reason. So.
All right. Before we go, I just want to remind everybody of the Three Beards Media is hosting their bracket challenge, something that they started last year. And we're talking for the winner, a $100 gift card from Birchwood Farms, who, if you're not familiar with them, they have some meats. And so the timing of this would be perfect just in time for your Easter meals. And there's going to be both a men's challenge and a women's challenge. So go ahead and jump online now that the brackets have been released. I have not been on the website yet to see if it's out there, but if you're following Three Beards Media, there will be a link to each of those brackets here in the next day or so. I encourage everybody to jump in there and to take a look.
When I win it, I'll donate my. When I win it,
I was talking smack already. I absolutely love it. But again, a ton of meat for the winner. If you're able to win that, I don't think I did very well last year. And generally, I'm pretty good. I usually get 11 or 12 of the Sweet 16 in, and I think that's pretty good if I can do something like that.
Yeah, but you'll find that one or two teams that'll blow the whole bracket up.
I know.
Someone will have Lipscomb winning the national championship, and come on now.
Well, they're Lipscomb fans, and just like us, we'll I'm sure put the Cyclones in the Final Four because that's what we do. We're homers.
Yeah, well, I'm realistic at the same time.
Yeah, well, it's not. I'm not putting money into this. If anything, Birchwood Farms has given us $100, so I'm going to vote for the Cyclones. But again, I'm a homer. I'm unapologetic for it. So, Brent, sorry to miss you. Happy birthday, my friend. Thanks to everyone for joining us, and thank you to our sponsors. Again, this has been a special edition of In the Side of the Storm. We probably will not be back on Wednesday night because, hey, that's the night that we're all getting ready for filling out our brackets for the last time. We'll have heard a lot of feedback. We heard a lot from you, Marcus, a guy that watches a lot of basketball, that knows your ball inside and out. I think you've given all of us some good feedback to go back to our brackets. We'll have a chance to fill those out. Jump onto the Three Beards Media site, fill out both a men's and women's bracket, and who knows, maybe you'll be the winner of that $100 gift card. Again, thank you to Revelton Distilling Company and Greenberry Realty, and of course our studio sponsor, Andrew Downs and AKC Marketing. So, Marcus, good to see you.
You too,
good
brother.
night to everybody, and go Cyclones.
When the team takes flight, Hilton's rocking, hear the magic call. We rise together, we'll never fall. There's a cyclone brewing on the outskirts tonight. Jack Trice shakes when the team takes flight. Hilton's rocking, hear the magic call. We rise together, we'll never fall. CYCLONES, Cyclone Nation, we're the best. CYCLONES, feel the storm, we'll never rest.
Beat